I ruined my wife's life. I, 43M, try to do my best to provide for my wife, 38F, and 2 kids, 3, 5, as well as my mill, and would like to think I am doing a decent job. Over the years, I worked to improve our family's living situation. Not only did I complete another bachelor's and recently master's in a STEM-related degree, I at the same time worked 2 full-time jobs while completing my second bachelor's and put my wife through school as well. She completed a degree where she could make good money, approximately 60 to 70K per year, in a healthcare field that always has jobs available. But with the birth of our 2 kids, she has since gave up on her career to be a stay-at-home mom for the time being. At first it was a struggle while I was finishing up my master's. Once I completed it, after our youngest turned 3, my career took a jump up, and we are now able to afford our single-income household in a more feasible manner. We're far from rich but do okay for a single-income family of 4, a little north of 150K base plus bonuses. The past year, life was overwhelming per my wife, so even though I now work 75% from home, I budgeted to hire a daytime nanny to help her around the house with one child while the other is in school now. My day starts every day around 5:30 to 6 a.m. I get the house ready for the day before the nanny comes at 8 a.m. I get our oldest up and ready for school, breakfast made, and plan out my day, bring our oldest to drop off and be home in time to let the nanny in. My most recent task at work has me grounded for the next 2 months, meaning I am now 100% WFH. While this is nice, I am busy in meetings all day as my role manages teams on a global scale as I oversee projects from my industry. For the past 1.5 months, I realized my wife, as much as she says her life is stressful at home, starts at 10 a.m. I asked my mill and nanny if this was always the case after a week or so of WFH, and they both responded more or less, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. My wife literally wakes up and cooks and then scrolls through her phone or shops from home, which brings me to my gripe. I'm glad I am able to provide her that sort of life since we both grew up lacking in means. I get the possibility of postpartum depression, the stress of having kids, the feeling of being unfulfilled, the fact that I probably am a shitty husband, but for what it's worth, everything is taken care of and then some. I manage the house's finances. She claimed she was too busy to do so, pay all the household bills. I pay my own personal bills. I pay her bills, track and perform all the upkeep of our house appliances, cars, pets, etc., and I also help pay for my MIL's medical bills and car note. But apparently my life is on easy street compared to hers. I can't decompress to her because it seems like she always feels the need to one-up me. I had a bad day, but she had it worse, cause I'm lucky I got to go away and work. My feet hurt from walking all day during work travel, which is nothing compared to her standing and cooking with a child clinging to her. For the past 2 or so years, I've been told I ruined her life, her opportunities, etc., but when I reminded her of what she says, she denies and dodges accountability. My mill has brought me aside and stated she's noticed a change in both myself and my wife. I have a greater attachment to my kids, and hell, I've hugged the dogs and talked to them more about my life than to my wife. I honestly feel like I am in emotional survival mode as I'm one step from moving up the career ladder and one step away from finding love and comfort from the bottom of a whiskey bottle. I'm sure I'll be hearing from the manly men of Reddit about how I'm simping, but I'm not a machine. I just want to know and feel that someone I prioritize aside from my kids appreciates and loves me for what I do. I'm sure I'll hear from the stay-at-home moms of Reddit, which is fine. I grew up in a single-parent mother household. It's not easy, and honestly, with the help of her mother and a nanny Monday to Friday for one toddler while another child is at school. Can you honestly tell me she's having the typical stay-at-home mom experience? Because neither my friends or colleagues who are single parents can say she is. I'm sure the masses of holier-than-thou Redditors will consider this a poorly written fanfic, but it is what it is. Update number 1, never cheated. I do work in an industry that has a large female population, but I'm literally an open book with work, name colleagues, and staff under me. She has access to my work agendas and correspondence if she really wanted to snoop. But on that note, she still doesn't know what exactly I do for a living at this time. We as whole family, her parents and mine, have tried to get her to go to therapy, but she refuses or skirts around the issue. Aside from my coming from a single mother household purse, my biological dad was present in my life. She has had both parents in a reportedly monogamous marriage for over 40 years. I have tried to talk to her about everything and my own feelings, but again, one-upmanship tends to be the trend here. What I am getting out of the marriage was asked. Now, aside from my 2 beautiful kids, I've been asking myself that same question. We have a near non-existent sex life mainly since last year. I always figured maybe it's part of depression or whatever she may be going through. Maybe I'm just not attractive enough or just horrible in bed because of my health conditions. I'm not some supermodel husband, but temptation and opportunity does knock, and I can perform still, but I never give in. Because as cliche as it sounds, I honestly do love my wife and want to only be with her. I'll give credit where credit is due, as I don't want to sound biased. When I say she wakes up and cooks, she cooks for everyone in the house. Myself, kids, mill, and even nanny. Aside from breakfast, she cooks all meals and snacks. I typically fast until lunchtime, and our oldest tends to eat a small simple breakfast in case they don't like what school serves that morning. She does load both the kids and her laundry, but seldomly folds and puts them up. I typically do my own, and the rest of my clothes I dry clean because they're work clothes. She does keep track of our pantry and fridge, but after she makes the list, I'm the one who goes out and buys everything if not delivered. She does clean our bathrooms and house 50% of the time. The other 50 is done by either Mill or myself, or sometime Nanny if she feels like being extra helpful. Prior to Nanny, my Mill was the main help for my wife up until she had unexpected medical needs. So I opted to hire a nanny to help them both. More so when Mill is having treatments and recovering. Update 2. Not sure if anyone would read this, but thank you for those who have reached out and chit-chatted. While I know I've kept my newfound friends here updated, I figured I'd just update my post and keep it short. I showed my wife my post the following weekend, and she read it and all the comments. Long story short, argument. She left our house to stay with her sister, and I've been a single parent since. It's sad to say, aside from the good nights to our kids, it's all pretty much the same routine. Nothing much else to say other than thank you for all the kind words of encouragement. Asterisk, just need to add, this post got bigger than I expected from a venting post, but I've responded to a few comments. Nonetheless, thank you for the comments and DMs, and more so for the offers to let me ruin your life, ha. It's been the highlight of my day-night as I sit here drinking with my dog while everyone else is asleep. It feels depressingly sad that I feel that I have to turn to random internet strangers for some sort of validation in my rant. My apologies in advance as I try to keep this as vague as possible. Update 2. Post-birth, our kid's pediatrician's office gave my wife those postpartum depression screening forms, and during the time of both she scored pretty high and was suggested to see a therapist. With our second child, she scored significantly higher, and I should say I made an effort to get her the help she needs. She refused, so entered mother-in-law and nanny for support. I know what people will think, but this is one of the reasons I am not 100% ready to just give up and file our life together away. Also, I know silently suffering in the near and long run of our kids' future will not add to a healthy atmosphere, but neither would a bitter and hate-filled divorce. I know some have compared it to the ripping off a bandage, saying it'll hurt at first but that pain goes away, but I'd rather try to spare my kids thinking that their parents ended up hating each other because of them or something along those lines. I've told a few PPL I talked to in DM since my last post, a little more insight on my personal life. Prior to my promotion, I was a PM managing teams and budgets, so out of habit I plan for a lot of what-ifs. That being said, I made a number of contingency plans if sadly things went south. So, yes, I have talked to a lawyer 3 actually. Know our rights and what each of us are entitled to. Have a draft settlement created and on hold until I feel I need to use it. I know what I want and am willing to offer more than what is fair for our kids' well-being, but also have a plan if we end up going to court. It's 100% on me that I'm suffering in silence, but I'm too stubborn to just give up, so while I am venting, I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I endure it to keep the norm our kids know, ensure my MIL's treatments go uninterrupted, and of course, the hope my wife would finally be open to give therapy a shot and climb together to a better place. Thank you all again. Update 3. To save you a read. Wife left. Came back like nothing happened. She made it about her. Nothing's changed. I'm continuing to be suffering mentally, knowing nothing will change while trying to keep it together for our kids. Lots of takeout. The day after she packed up and left, my wife attempted to come back and take the kids with her to her sister's. Naturally, I was against this, and thankfully so was her whole family, including said sister. Not only was it not fair to our kids for her to sweep them away into a home that's not theirs, but to put that financial and housing stress on the rest of her family since she doesn't work, and her sister and her family, husband and 3 kids, stays with their dad in the house they grew up in. After a little over a week of being away, I guess she cooled off, so she just decided that it would be fine if she walked in the door with her bags as if she just came back from Target. She came into my office while I was working and angrily stared at me while I sat on a conference call meeting with my team, and I couldn't just jump off, as this is a busy time of the quarter for us. I guess that didn't sit well with her, because once I took off my headset and closed my laptop, she started yelling at me about how much I really don't care about her and her well-being overall. At that moment, I couldn't do anything more than look at her and just shake my head. Mother-in-law came in after hearing my wife yelling and pulled her away, telling her to not bother me, while our nanny kept our youngest away from it all on the other side of the house. That night, after the kids were put to bed, I sat in my office by myself with a drink, as I have been doing for the past nights, and my wife came in, We talked. We argued, we cried, we drank. One thing led to another and we were in bed. I wish I could say that was our making up, but the next sobering morning as we laid there, she went on about how hard it was for her the time she was gone. Literally, it was about her struggles staying at her family house in her old room with her dad and sister's family. How lucky I am to be able to stay here and do this and that and buy this or do that and not stress as much as they did. How easy my and everyone else's in our family lives are compared to hers, even though we had similar upbringings. My mind and heart broke that morning. I've been spiraling down since then, and this last week I made another attempt to reconcile and talk things out, but I was met with a shouting match while trying to express my current stress and anxieties with life and work in general. Wife: well, do you know how hard this is all for me? You're supposed to help me be happy, me. So when it comes to my happiness, stress, needs, and overall well-being, FK me, get over it, right? Wife: we all have our own problems. You need to figure it out and get over them. I don't know who the woman I am at home with is, but that wasn't the woman I married and vowed to spend my life with and raise our kids together. Since that conversation, I've been noticeably distant with her. I've been sleeping in my office or on the couch or with my kids in their bed after putting either one of them to sleep. Still doesn't change her starting her day at 10 a.m. and sitting on her phone talking to her mom groups between cooking meals with the kids in both mother-in-law and nanny's care. Nothing has changed, and I doubt that anything will change. Sadly, I think even if we got a divorce, nothing would change or feel different anyway, since during my wife's leaving, the days seemed like any other day except with a little more takeout than usual. My main fear there isn't that I wouldn't just lose my wife, I'd lose my kids in the process. So I guess it's sad to say the grand finale to my story, with like a lot of men and some women I've talked to here, I'll just continue to smile and suffer in silence.